Hello, everyone. Brett the Comic Novice here, and I finally have my issue of Spider-Man number 11, written by Dan Slott, art not by Mark Bagley for the first time in 11 issues. And I think this book does a couple of interesting things that I was actually am very glad about, and then one that I, just have a theory about. And the thing I want to touch base on first is what I have a theory about. Now, predating this book, there was multiple Spider-Man, Edge of the Spider-Man book series. I believe there was a 4 to 6 part Edge of the Spider-Verse with brand new spider creatures from multiple different Earths and whatnot, which I didn't even bother reading, and have no remorse about picking up first appearances on any of those. However, what this does with this one that is the end of the Spider-Verse from issue number 1 through 7. At the same time, they also did a couple 4 more Edge of the Spider-Verse books, which also had a story featuring Bailey Briggs Spiderboy, which gave us a little bit more insight into who he is. But all of this 11 issue series, as well as the Edge of the Spider-Verse series, all this was doing was setting up the character of Spiderboy. Because after issue number 11, I mean, to me, actually, sorry, before we do that, issue number 7 was discussed by Dan Slott on Twitter. He basically said, if you have not pre-ordered or set aside issue number 7 of the variant cover, I strongly believe that you should do so. I think that they created this sidekick for Peter Parker, who may be an on-again, off-again member of the Spider family, and then obviously off in his own book. But I believe that they found that this was going to be a really strong character, and they basically created possibly 20 books just for this one character to be promoted above all others, or maybe, every other character was lesser in comparison to Bailey Briggs Spiderboy. So that's just my theory regarding the who Bailey Briggs, or the popularity of Bailey Briggs, and why everything is happening. Because again, November 2023, issue number 1 of the Spider-Boy will be coming out. And nobody else has their ongoing book. Well, I guess there could be some Kid Venom books. I'd be kind of interested about that, but that's a video for another day. However, I like that this book also answered some of the questions that I brought up from issue number 10, which is, why was there so many inaccuracies from page to page or panel to panel revolving around Bailey Briggs's spider suit? He would go from having just the 2 standard eye sockets to a couple extra to a couple more. And then, of course, the mouth gaping open with fangs coming out, and he, bites Electro with his, with his venom that kind of immobilizes him and stuff like that. So again, was it part of the suit or whatnot? And this issue answers all of those questions. So I'm really grateful for that. Also, within this issue, we kind of get a further origin story, a further explanation of Bailey Briggs to Spider-Man, which I think is done a little bit better than what they were doing in the Edge of the Spider-Verse number 3, because again, this is introducing Bailey Briggs to Peter Parker. And, this is discussed that he was saved. He was a genetic splice between a human and a spider. He was saved by Peter Parker. And in the due process, of course, he has multiple eyes. They bring him to Daredevil to train so that he can kind of calm down and unmonster out, because he, I guess, he has the exact opposite of Daredevil, where Daredevil has, no vision but super senses. He has way too many eyeballs and too much input coming in at one time. So Daredevil kind of was there to kind of, be his Mr. Miyagi. And the reason why I say that is because there is a cringy panel where Peter Parker is singing "You're the Best Around," and it just made me want to bash my head against the wall. But that being said, there's only one other cringy panel in the entirety of this book, so that's not that bad. So then, of course, the question is, well, how does he have like this spider suit that is inaccurate from panel to panel or page to page? And it's revealed that Mr. Fantastic built this suit from this is the same material that, the Fantastic Four uses, so it's able to mimic their powers. So, of course, he can, use his web crawling ability with these oversized sneakers. And then the, costume has the ability to add or subtract eye sockets as it as he either monsters out or not. So that's going to be kind of an interesting thing going forward. We get like the whole Peter Parker trying to learn a little bit more about him, still not wanting him to be a part of anything dangerous. And it's even brought up that at one point in time that, you were wiped. If you were my partner, if you were my sidekick, you were wiped from everybody's memory because you were stabbed by this, magical dagger. At which point in time, Bailey Briggs was just like, hey, do you worry about Jessica Drew? Happened to her? Hey, what about yourself? Like that happened to you. And I like that Peter is very reflective about the whole situation and remembers, being a non-spider person, even though he was wiped from existence, he actually wasn't. He actually just was existing as a non-spider person, super powered individual, which again, kind of interesting, but begs the question, what happened to Jessica Drew? Is there going to be further stories for, her non, spider, whatever? I don't think that that's going to be that interesting, but again, it does beg the question. Additionally, we do have the whole, not only did Mr. Terrific make this for me, not only did you bring me to Daredevil, but you gave me, I don't have web shooters because there's a horrible story that has occurred and I will not share it with you. But you did give me this canister, which does dissolve your web shooter juice. And Peter Parker basically realizes that if he trusted him enough to do this, that maybe there was a bond. They go and they fight, I believe, Big Wheel or something like that. Well, actually, before that, he relates to them the first adventure in which they take on Arcade, which kind of endeared Bailey to Peter Parker. And so then from there, they go take on Big Wheel, who is, going to be crushing the homeless shelter. And instead of helping, Bailey takes a device, does what I do when I play a video game, and just button mashes the whole thing, which accelerates Big Wheel, destroying the whole homeless shelter. But in doing so, Bailey decides to, instead of save the homeless shelter, save Aunt May and make sure that people are not endangered, which basically, again, shows Peter Parker the quality of a person that Bailey is. Again, one of the things that I really think that does come across well, again, I do teach young children at school. One thing that I do appreciate that is very relevant throughout this is Peter's not wanting, him to be hurt because, he feels personally responsible for him. On the other hand, you do have Bailey Briggs, who just wants to be accepted, just wants to be cared for, and just wants to be seen. It is a very intriguing and difficult thing to juggle, but I do appreciate both the humanity that both characters have, and I do think that it comes across well. I was not sure from issue number 7 or ongoing that Bailey Briggs' character was going to be interesting enough to have a book, that let alone an ongoing book. I believe I even kind of scoffed at the idea. The only thing I actually ever scoff at is a couple of quotes that Dan Slott gave Marvel Comics regarding the whole Spider-Boy ongoing book. And that is basically, first off, he talks about, Spider-Man is not supposed to have a sidekick. It's just wrong on so many levels. And then, of course, he says, there's going to be, he's going to be going forward facing classic villains and also new villains, which again, possibly means lots of first appearances, which I think will be, I guess, good for speculators, possibly good for Marvel sales or whatnot. Again, the other thing that really kind of I find cringy about anything that Dan Slott says is our goal is to get every reader to ask 2 questions. What in the hell did I just read? And when is the next one coming out? Now, I don't like the first quote that he gave. I don't think that it is a good idea to have somebody like to me, I read that as somebody scratching their head going, "What the hell did I just read?" And I don't think that is a good thing for comic readers to be thinking when they are reading a story. Now, it should be, "Wow, that is amazing." That's what that quote should have said. That is amazing, and I can't wait for the next one to come out. That's what readers should be saying, not, and maybe I'm just reading it wrong. I don't know. But that's just my thoughts. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the ongoing Spider-Boy series? What about this whole Edge of the Spider-Verse, End of the Spider-Verse? Like, subscribe, comment down below. I do appreciate it. I will get things wrong, and I do appreciate either being razzed about it or being, kindly corrected. So, with that being said, thanks again for watching. Until next time, I will see you in the dollar section. This book was called End of the Spider-Verse. No, okay. It was. I was right. Never doubt yourself. All right.